Your parents told you to save 10% of every paycheck. They told you to buy a house the second you could afford one. They told you a stable job with a pension was the finish line. Here's the problem. That advice was built for a world that doesn't exist anymore. And if you're still following it today, it might be the exact reason you're broke. Let's start with something that should bother you more than it does. In the 1970s, the average American home cost roughly 2 times the median household income. Today, in most major cities, that ratio is closer to 7 or 8 times income. Same advice, completely different math. Your dad bought a house on a factory salary. You can't buy one on a software engineer's salary in most cities on Earth, and that's not because you're bad with money. I think this is the part nobody wants to say out loud. The system your parents' advice was designed for, stable wages, cheap housing, one income supporting a family, that system is gone. But the advice never updated. It just got passed down like a family recipe nobody questions. Now, let's talk about the thing that actually keeps high earners broke. It's not spending on luxury, it's lifestyle creep. And it's sneaky because it feels like progress. Here's how it works. You get a raise, $12,000 a year, let's say. You don't invest it. You upgrade your apartment by $300 a month. You lease a nicer car. You start ordering the $18 cocktail instead of the beer. None of these decisions feel reckless in the moment. Each one feels earned. That's what makes it dangerous. It never feels like the mistake it actually is. There's actually a psychological name for the mechanism underneath this. In 1954, a psychologist named Leon Festinger published something called social comparison theory. His argument, stripped down, was that humans don't judge their well-being in absolute terms. They judge it relative to the people around them. You don't feel rich because you have enough. You feel rich when you have slightly more than your neighbor. And the second your neighbor catches up, the goalposts move again. Nobody talks about this part, and honestly, I think it's the most important sentence in this whole video. Lifestyle creep isn't a spending problem. It's a comparison problem, wearing a spending costume.
Now here's where it gets interesting, because the ultra-wealthy figured out how to opt out of this game entirely, not by spending less, but by changing how their money is taxed in the first place. Most people get paid a salary. Salary is taxed as ordinary income, which in the US can run as high as 37% at the federal level. Billionaires mostly don't take a salary. Warren Buffett has said publicly, going back to a 2011 op-ed in the New York Times, that his effective tax rate was lower than his secretary's. Not because he was hiding money, because the tax code taxes wages harder than it taxes wealth. Here's the mechanism, and it's honestly one of the more elegant legal loopholes in modern finance. It's sometimes called buy, borrow, die. Step 1. Buy appreciating assets, like stock. Step 2. Instead of selling those assets and triggering capital gains tax, borrow against them. Banks will happily loan against a stock portfolio at low interest rates because the collateral is sitting right there. Step 3. When you die, under current US tax law, your heirs inherit those assets at their current value, not the value you originally paid. That's called a stepped-up basis. The gains that built up over decades of growth can legally vanish for tax purposes in a single generational handoff. A 2021 ProPublica investigation, using leaked IRS data, found that some of the wealthiest people in America paid close to nothing in federal income tax in certain years, not through fraud, but by living on borrowed money instead of taxable income. Because under the law, you aren't taxed simply when your assets increase in value. You are only taxed when you sell those assets to generate a realized income. And since they don't draw a traditional salary, there is legally nothing to tax. I remember reading that report and honestly feeling a little sick. Not because it's illegal, because it's completely legal. And most people don't even know the rule exists.
So here's my actual opinion, and I know this isn't going to be popular. Working harder isn't the fix. If you are trading hours for a salary, you are playing a version of the game that was rigged against you before you even sat down at the table. That's not motivational poster nonsense, it's structural. The tax code rewards owning things. It punishes earning wages. Your parents' advice, get a stable job, optimized for exactly the category of income that gets taxed the hardest. Now, I want to connect this to something most finance videos never bring up: game theory. Economists sometimes describe status spending as a zero-sum tournament. If everyone in your income bracket upgrades their car at the same rate, nobody actually gains relative status. You've all just agreed, silently, to spend more money to stay in the exact same place. It's the financial version of standing up at a concert so you can see better, except everyone stands up and now everyone's just uncomfortable and nobody sees any better than before. That's lifestyle creep. That's also, honestly, most of consumer culture.
So what's the alternative? I'm not going to pretend there's a 5-step formula that fixes this in a weekend. But here's the shift that actually matters. Stop measuring progress by what you can afford to spend and start measuring it by what you can afford to own. A raise that goes into an index fund is doing something structurally different for you than a raise that goes into a nicer lease. One moves you toward the asset side of the tax code. The other keeps you exactly where the system wants you: earning, spending, earning, spending. Here's the thing that actually lingers with me. Your parents weren't wrong to give you that advice. They were describing the rules of a game that existed when they played it. The rules changed. Nobody sent out a memo. So maybe the real question isn't why you're bad with money. Maybe it's, whose game have you actually been playing this whole time?